Hello there, people of the internet. I was going through some of my random miscellaneous stockpiles that I've got laying around, and I came across this really interesting little round right here. It certainly looks cool. It looks like a bottlenecked cartridge. It's very unusual in comparison to what I normally play around with. So this is the 3840 Winchester, and it I'm just now realizing that this right here is so stereotypical of what my life is. And the reason why I say that is because this round right here is based off of the 4440 Winchester, the extraordinarily powerful round that came out in the 1873 Winchester back in 1873. It was overwhelmingly popular for the time period where it came out. Well, in 1874, right? Yeah, in 1874, Winchester came out with this 3840 instead of a 44 caliber. This is neck down to technically a 40 caliber, but it's called the 3840 for some reason. Normally, that would tell me it's a 38 caliber, but I guess in this particular case, it's a 40 caliber. It's a 401 diameter bullet, and the reason why I say that this is so stereotypical for me is because every time I want something in life, I get something that is similar to what I want. And that's just how life seems to go. And I have been wanting to get my hands on a 4440 for a tremendous amount of time. And not necessarily like a, not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a modern production 4440. I want an original production 4440. That would be so cool to have in the collection. 4440 is just one of those rounds that really holds a special place in my heart for just due to the historical natures behind it, but that's beyond the scope of this particular video. So the 3840 Winchester, it's also known as 10.17 by 33 millimeter R. It takes a 401 diameter bullet, so it is a 40 caliber projectile. And like I said, it is based off of the 4440. Now this right here was in production from 1874 all the way up until 1937. In 1937, or rather in and right before World War II, not just Winchester, but a lot of other gun companies started getting away from producing rounds that they had produced in the 1800s just because they were becoming much more niche, much more uncommon, much more of a, well, with lack of better terminology, a niche item that not a lot of people were using. By that time period, 30-06 and 30-30 were absolutely way more predominant than something like 3840. So Winchester, along with all the other companies that were doing this at that particular time period, elected to save the gunpowder and the lead and the brass and whatnot for projectiles and rounds that were significantly more likely to get sales in the United States. And we still see that to this day. There's a reason why a lot of military surplus cartridges, companies will make like a one batch run of them and then keep their tooling and their resources in powder and lead and copper and all the stuff that they use for ammo production. They'll make 223, 5.56, 30-06, 308, 9mm, 45 ACP, things that are much more stereotypical and much more common, much more likely to sell. We see this all throughout history. That's just the nature of the game. So Winchester stopped production of the 3840 back in 1937. However, in 1993, when cowboy action shooting started really picking up again, production of 3840 was restarted, and from what I can tell, this stuff is still produced to this day. I'm not sure what all companies are out there making this stuff, but it is in modern production. This particular stuff says W/W, so I'm sure that's Winchester produced, and this does have like a lacquer on the primer, so I'm sure that this right here is a modern produced version of this round. I can hear smokeless gunpowder sloshing around in there. If you shake an old cartridge like this and you hear gunpowder in there, that means it's smokeless. If it's black powder needs to be compressed, and if you shake this around and you hear nothing, that means that it's probably a black powder round. So as far as the capabilities of this round, this is like the 10 millimeter back in the day. It's a little bit weaker than modern 10 millimeter, but this is like the 10 millimeter back in the day. It fired a 180 grain bullet at 1150 feet per second, which is like literally on par for a lot of the modern made commercial 10 millimeter that's out there. It's a little spicier than 40 Smith & Wesson that you would normally see, but this is pretty much on par with what you would see with that 10 millimeter. I don't necessarily know why Winchester made this round, because a year before they made the 4440 and it was a wild astronomical success. And this right here is just a 20 grain lighter bullet, and it's a slightly smaller bullet. Like, it doesn't really serve any real significant practical purpose, and I think that's why this right here was significantly less popular than something like the 4440. The 4440 was, by a huge stretch, one of Winchester's most popular rounds. That and like 3030 were probably Winchester's greatest, most popular rounds that they've ever made. So there we go. There was what I was able to find on the 3840. Not quite the 4440 I've been looking for, but boy oh boy, it's at least based off of the 4440. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I will see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.